Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to be hanging out with you once again on Tuesday evening. Not sure what you had going on over the weekend, but hopefully you had a good weekend. Had a really crazy week last week. A lot of things going on. Hopefully you may have joined us for the Power Breakfast or our networking event. Also had a chance to speak at a great conference. Excited about my guest here, Baz Porter. He's, it was actually his conference, and he's doing some great things with his business, and I'm glad that have an opportunity to have him on today. So today we're going to talk about accelerating your leadership. Baz Porter, founder of Rams by Baz, and we're going to just chat about leadership. This show is called Leadership Live at 8:05. And that's because you can only take your business as far as you're prepared to lead it. So what we want to do here is just introduce you to the perspective and knowledge and experience and expertise of other successful leaders in business so that you can learn things, emulate them, and utilize what you've learned here to be more successful in business. And that's really why we do this. So let me invite Baz on, and we'll get started. Hey, Baz, how you doing this evening?
I'm amazing, Andrew, and thank you for having me here today.
Great. No, glad to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
It's a privilege, as always, to serve people like yourself. You've done so much in the business world, and it's nice to just give back and provide that value for your clients and your people.
Okay, thanks. So, you had your conference last week, and
yes,
just take a minute to explain sort of what your conference was all about.
So the conference was named Phoenix Voices. Phoenix Voices is about people having that voice that they don't normally have, people's stories and their pathway to success or define success, but also the lessons they've learned along the way. And it was truly about inspiring the underdog to do more, but educating them at the same time, applying the skills that most of us take a lifetime to learn and fail fast and fail forward and all that. But the concept was understanding what business is. And it's not just about receiving money or getting influence on a stage. It's about building true relationships with people that you wouldn't normally associate with, and also providing that value to them so they can provide for their families, build a legacy, redefine their purpose, and help them pay it forward in the future. So Phoenix Voices isn't just another event or conference. It was a movement to inspire the next generation.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, um, and you talked about Phoenix and their stories, and you have a tremendous story. I mean, you've really, um, seen a lot of transformation and really learned a lot in the process that you're really passing on to others through your coaching and training. Um, can you talk a little bit about your story? Definitely, people would benefit a lot from that.
Sure. So I originally started a life out as a soldier. I spent nearly 9 years in the British forces. And then after serving 9 years, I became a DJ. And I spent 7 years in Cyprus being a DJ, came back to the UK for a relationship which ultimately failed. The reason it failed was I had undiagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. And in that 12 years of transition, I became a drug addict, alcoholic, and homeless. And then in 2017, 2018, I decided, after a number of suicide attempts and failures in my life, to get in a state of awareness to help people. Didn't know what that looked like. I joined a Facebook group, and I ended up by helping people and sharing my stories and challenges and helping them with theirs, growing that Facebook group from about 4,000 people to 36,000 people within about 6 months. What I realized was I was doing all this for free. I didn't know at the time it was forming the foundation of what I do professionally today, internationally, and that was coaching. Now, the coaching that I do is slightly different because I've done it. Everything I do, I've done it myself, and I've taught it from a very an aspect of it's provided from knowledge that the pathway that I've walked. So RAM's coaching is results, attitude, mastery, and systems. But to get to that point, I had to go through a number of trials and tribulations, understanding what leadership was, understanding myself, understanding human behavior, psychology, other people, what they wanted in different aspects of their life. So after me getting right in the head, basically, and sober, that took a while and that was very challenging. I wanted to travel and do more, so that's what I did. I basically saved up enough money through donations while I was in that Facebook group to travel. I had a one-way plane ticket to New York, a visa, 3-month ESTA, and then I had about $360 spending money. That took me across the US, 33 states in 3 months, traveling by Greyhound bus, helping other people, hitchhiking, etc. And I helped a lot of people. I don't even know how many. My last state I came through, and I came down from Oregon into California. Now, this was when the fires were on in 2019 in Oregon and that at the Northern California. So I was helping refugees in the area of Sacramento, Northern California, a paradise it was. I then left Paradise, came down into San Francisco, came into South Bay, where I had a once-in-a-lifetime meeting with a client of mine that took me for a meal. And I'd been serving that client for about two years by that point, on and off. She brought a +1 with her, and that +1 and I exchanged numbers. She ended up being my wife. But before we get to that point, I had to go to Australia because my visa was running out. We had a date for 3 days, lasted 3 days. She then drove me to the airport. I spent 3 months in Australia where I was helping people do similar things, traveling around. She flew me back, and that brings me up until 2019 in July. From that point, my life changed. Nicola, who is my wife, she was the person that is responsible for me being stood here before you today. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. I was traveling west. I was going to go end up at the top of a mountain. and I wouldn't be in society as you see me now. So she flew me back, and our relationship deepened. We got married in end of September of 2019. So the time of me traveling was only about 9 months. From 2019 until present, I built up a coaching company and inspirational speaking company. And that was through putting myself into very uncomfortable situations in masterminds, rooms that I felt a little fish in. But it served me very well, because I realized leadership wasn't just about acting the path or being the front of the room. It was about listening. It was about understanding people, as I said earlier. But more importantly, it was about building the network that was congruent and of service to others. From that point, my whole life changed, where I started to build not just a business, but it was a movement to help others. And it wasn't a movement from a textbook or from imagination. This was a movement from going from nothing, literally a homeless hobo traveling the world, an ex-alcoholic who was trying to provide a service and help people from experience. But I know, and I remember the days where I didn't know what to do in my life. Suddenly I found purpose and meaning to it by providing hope and purpose and leadership in many different forms to other people. But I wasn't leading from the front. At one point, I was leading from the back and from a following point of view. So I had to change the identity, who I was showing up as. So it was in alignment with not just my company, but my own values. And that was a transition that really shifted the aspect of my business from me serving myself to serving others. So it wasn't coming from an egoic point of view. It was coming from a place of compassion, true understanding, and also service and value. It shifted just not my coaching and had the pillars and the foundation for RAMS, but it enabled me to put into practice everything that I was teaching into the way that I show up in front of you today. And that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for that chance meeting with that plus one. She eventually became my wife. So I credit her with everything that happens today, because she's the reason I'm here today.
Okay, excellent. So, everybody has a journey, and your journey took you, across continents and country, and into some dark places, but then into some light places.
Of course.
And I don't know about you, but my journey hasn't had as many up and down, but everybody's up at times and down at times. And I found that many times the down times had the greatest impact on shaping who I am and where I am. And everything in my life before this really contributes to my ability to do what I do now. And I don't know if that's something that you feel as well. And what would you say the biggest thing that you've taken from your journey and that you utilize now?
I think the biggest thing, Andrew, for me was realizing that the bad times never last. And someone told me life is like seasons. So when we look at bad times or unfavorable times, what I learned was they don't last. They end. But we have to choose when that happens. We have to choose the view that happens in. So instead of looking at a situation as a negative, where I learned very quickly, not just through my military career and the return of it, coming back from alcoholism and drug issues, but the more we look at the negative, that's what we illuminate. But equally, the more we look at the positive we have in our lives, the blessings, the little things that we don't usually appreciate, that's the definition and changing things from a negative into the positive. Bad times don't last, and neither do good times if we tend to view them like that. We have to remember that everything's a journey, it's a challenge, and it still would be there to be overcome. It's how we overcome it and how we apply it in our lives afterwards. We all look at the bad times. Oh my God, this is happening to me, and it's never going to end. Try waking up in the morning saying, quite simply, I'm grateful to be alive. I interviewed someone a while ago on my podcast, and it was a person who was a model for a very long time. She did Vogue and many other things back in the day. She had a car accident, and after she came out of hospital 8 weeks later, it was very serious. She didn't know how to be grateful. She had not been grateful for much at all in her life. And it resonated with me for two reasons. One, it reminded me of gratitude and how it shows up in our lives. And two, this was a very successful model, had everything she ever wanted, but she'd had her life nearly taken away from her. And she didn't remember how to be grateful. So what she did was put up post-it notes around the house, reminding her what to be grateful for. She eventually, a month later, had 250,000 post-it notes dotted around the house, inside cupboards, on lamps, on walls. It was insane. But it reminded me very starkly that life is precious. And no matter what challenges you're in, it ends. But you can choose to end it by looking at various aspects of life from a grateful point of view. Not it's happening to me, it's happening for me. And what can I learn and how can I pay that forward to support somebody else? Nothing any business owner or business operator will ever go through is there to suppress them or stop them. And I found that out very, very quickly by pivoting my point of view and changing my perception on any given environment. What I realized was it's all a choice. And each of us have a choice of how we view our business, our lives, our friendships, our social life, how we show up. So my question to you would be, how do you show up, and can you be grateful for by changing and pivoting just one thing?
Huge. So definitely, like you said, you have a choice of how you're gonna take things that come at you. And as an entrepreneur, one thing that I found is you can't really be an entrepreneur without faith, because there's risk, and it can be scary sometimes, and it can be great sometimes. But if you don't believe in what you're doing and have faith in what you're doing, nobody else will. And Baz, it took you a little while to really have confidence in what you're doing and what your purpose is. What were some of the key? How did you know that this is what I'm supposed to do? And what was the moment or the thing that kind of brought that forward for you?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. I didn't actually know. It was sort of a leap of faith. Confidence with what you do comes with repetitive trying and not giving up. But the confidence that I found within myself has been shattered over and over again. But what I found out when I was traveling on the journey that I was on, around the States into the US, I had to redefine myself. And I tried to redefine the wrong parts of myself at first. I didn't know how to be authentic. I didn't know who I was. I was so lost due to the alcoholism and the addictions. So I had to reinvent who I was and also reinvent in a very natural and organic way what my focus was and also where I was going, the direction. I didn't know that it was going to be coaching, and I didn't really know at that time what coaching was. I heard of it, it wasn't something that I pursued or was very interested in. But I did know from previous experiences from teachers, whether it be a teacher at school or someone in the forces that taught me something, a mentor. And I also know mentoring worked for me. It's not for everybody, and coaching and mentoring are different. The confidence started to happen after I realized that my failures weren't failures. They were a platform for me to learn from, not a platform to fail from, but to learn something new, whether it be a new skill, a new way of speaking to someone, my stage presence, having a conversation, being able to pick up the phone or have send the email. So when we look at how businesses are built, the foundation of them is built on relationships. But the most important relationship that I found starts with yourself first. Get your vision right, get that focus or results that you want, and be very detailed about it, as detailed as you can. And don't quit. And don't be afraid to ask somebody. I was afraid to ask everybody for help at one point, but it wasn't serving me. And someone told me, stop doing everything yourself because you're not going to get anywhere. Stop being that person. Stop having that awareness and try and doing everything all by yourself. Just try and do it a step at a time. Try and be that person that was of service to others. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because the more you can ask the little things, the more confidence it builds, the more direction you'll have. And ask people that have been there, have done it. Not necessarily successful or on some big stage. Asking somebody for help isn't shameful, and it builds character within certain aspects of your business. But it's about growth. But you've got to face who you are first.
Okay, excellent. So, I don't know if you know Willie Jolly. He's a fairly famous speaker, but his book's called "A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback," and that's sort of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When it may seem bad at the time, but it really can be what you needed to get where you need to go. So
Yes.
So that's cool. We do have a question from Dr. Michelle Scott.
Of course.
She's asking, did you embrace a more internal locus of control as you went through things?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Michelle. I did. And the reason that happened was I realized that I couldn't control my outside world. You can't control anything in life other than your own emotion or the way you look at something. So what I realized very quickly is I could either be reactive or proactive. And my emotion was the only thing that I could have dominion or power over. So it didn't matter what was going outside of me. And it can be a very challenging thing to go through and switch into, because if you try and do it from a manual point of view. I must act on this. I must do this physically. It doesn't work. But going internally does. You can control everything that you are from your emotional point of view and how you view something externally. So having the knowledge or the adaptability to go inwards, no matter what's happening around you. And so if you come inwards and you just say, right, can I control this? No. What do I do about it? This. And then come outwards from there. And then build a plan with your emotions in your viewpoint in balance, which is what it's all about. Having a balanced lifestyle, a balanced business, etc. But you're balanced within yourself. So you're not, you first of all build confidence. Secondly, you build that resilience of awareness that I can't control that, but I can control me. I can't control the reaction externally, but I control my emotion, how I see something within my business or life. So going inwards with a different viewpoint of surrender from the external, but a control point from the internal will actually set me up for a successful, somewhat ride in the future.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, you talked about delegating responsibility, because at some point, you're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. So that's a key comment, and of course, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask for help, you won't get what you need. Yep, I always say if you don't ask, you don't get. So definitely, especially as a business owner, nobody's going to ask for you. So, and I've got numerous occasions, even for me. Recently, I've got someone I work with, and he's like, "Hey, times are a little tough. I need some business." And I was like, "Hey, I was doing something. I was like, here, I'm gonna hire you for a little bit to do this." But if you hadn't asked, that wouldn't have happened. So, definitely being able to ask is key. Michelle says, "Thanks for sharing your story." And so, one thing I wanted to do is we're going to take a second because we jumped off to the beginning, but I usually share a little bit about the Small Business Pro University because we produce the show, and this is one of our brain trust initiatives. But it's always good to know what the Small Business Pro University is all about. So we're going to take a 1-minute video break, and then we'll be back with Baz talking small business.
Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded the Small Business Pro University to help business owners break that cycle by empowering them with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead their companies more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've worked one-on-one with more than 1,000 business owners and taught tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a Navy officer, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to grow revenue, increase profit, and obtain financing faster and easier. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include more than 100 expert-led multimedia courses and training programs with more than 2,500 lessons. The Small Business Pro Network, our private community for entrepreneurs. Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, our weekly live stream and podcast. Advanced Learning Institutes focused on revenue generation, profit maximization, and capital acquisition. And the Power Breakfast series, in-person events where business owners learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. If you want to sell more and make more, you need to check out Small Business Pro University. Visit our website at www.sbprou.com.
great. I'm here talking small business with Baz Porter. And Baz, we're going to go back to the topic a little bit. Sometimes I stray from the topic, but it's always good. But, we're talking about advancing your leadership. But one thing I find is like we use all these words, but not everybody knows what the definition is, or we don't always have the same definition. So, we're talking leadership with you. How do you define leadership?
That's a great question, Andrew. Thank you. I think leadership for me is having the awareness that you are in a responsibility to mentor or teach others to lay a pathway. And it doesn't necessarily mean a pathway to a business. It can be a pathway to the next level. But leadership for me is leading congruently from experience and also with compassion. It's one of the things people overlook a lot, especially in a lot of the business landscapes, is empathy, compassion, and also real understanding of other people. Going back to that concept of asking, but asking the right questions, the questions that matter for others. A 20-year-old doesn't want the same as a 30-year-old. And what I personally found was having a conversation with them matters, and it helps you understand their world, their aspirations, what they truly want. Being compassionate will change someone's life. It changed mine. But having the leading from that front, not authoritarian dictatorship, but leading with compassion, with optimism of a future and the possibilities. Leadership for me is of having the awareness that everything is possible, but through compassion, through empathy, and understanding of core aspects of what the person wants. So it's not just about being successful, defining a successful platform, i.e. money, flash cars, high-rise apartment, or whatever you define success as. Success and leadership is about leading from the front, but with awareness and true compassion for your growth and for other people's growth.
Okay, great. So, one of the things I talk to people about is, you can do tasks efficiently, but you have to work with people effectively.
Correct.
And, what does that mean? And give some examples of how you do that.
So I was speaking to Andrew just before we came on live. I'm not a marketeer, and I'm certainly not a salesman. I'm a visionary and a thought leader. So I have concepts, but I'm not an expert marketeer. I don't know how to put huge events on, but I do know how to give value and provide and understand other people. So I wouldn't go out and call myself a marketeer. I wouldn't call myself a salesperson. I call myself a thought leader or a visionary and an artist of a company, an artist of a vision. If you are good at one thing, don't try and do the other things that you're not good at. Delegate them. Understand that people need to stay in their lane. Yes, people can learn them skills, but are they passionate about them? If the answer is no, don't allow them to do it. Put them in the right places. For instance, if you've got someone who hates design and hates designing websites or producing content, copywriting, etc., don't put them in that role. But they aspire to be a coder or a developer, then you put them in that role. The same thing comes to you. Stick in your own lane of expertise and passion. Don't try and wear all the hats in the company. I did that, and many others do it. It doesn't work long term. You end up going to Busyville to Brokeville, and then from Busyville to burnout, and then burnout to Brokeville very, very quickly. Everybody hates burnout, and no one wants Brokeville. So stick in your own lane and find the passion that you want to do and you love doing. Don't try and do all the jobs. Try and just stick to one that you're good at, and you can get up in the morning inspired and you're ready to go to work, not get up and go, I'm trying to get to work, and prize yourself out of bed. Make sure it's something it's in alignment with who you are and your vision and what you're passionate about doing. That's my advice for someone who is going through that right now.
Okay. All right. Oh, great point. So we were both in the military, and the military doesn't really usually have very empathetic leadership. But you
Nope.
can learn a lot about leadership from the military.
Yeah.
What were some of your key lessons? I know I took away a lot of lessons on leadership.
I love that question. My military career was somewhat older school. So in the UK, I was something like a boy soldier. I was very young when I joined, and I wasn't always the golden child of my family. Got into a lot of trouble, and as such, I went off the rails. Leadership in the army took me to that level of it knocked the socks off me. Basically, it took me to a level of humbleness within what I was doing. I was a loudmouth. I was gobby. I didn't do well with authoritative figures, really. The forces, and this I'm sure still applies today. I've been out of them for a very long time now. The forces is a style where it's a bit harsher, a bit more robust, but also it makes you grow up very, very quickly. And in that growing up and the acceleration of growing up, it taught me, number one, discipline, self-discipline. Number two, it taught me that things can be adapted in any given moment. The third thing it taught me was anything was possible. So I was a kid, was in trouble, and didn't do well with authoritarian figures. But in that course of me going through leadership and training, I had to wake up and grow up very, very quickly. And it taught me that was possible. So the impossible was possible. I got fit, I got focused, I was taught discipline, and I was taught respect as well for others. Now, along my life, I've lost and gained some people, and I've lost respect from a lot of people, and I've gained respect from others. And that's the game of life. But each one of these lessons from the forces, from the military training that I did, taught me a deeper understanding of myself. And that deeper understanding, I can now help others actualize in their lives and businesses through what I do. Nothing would have been possible without that training that I had within the military. And I do apply it somewhat, forget it now and again, but we refocus with self-respect, self-discipline, and that result that we want. I don't like the word goal because it's too loose for me. Having that initial result and then adding and stacking onto that, for me, happened when I was first introduced into the military lifestyle. And it was a culture shock. But the lifestyle today is very, very different. You have politics involved, you have human rights involved now. When I joined, and I'm sure when Andrew was serving, there wasn't such really a thing called human rights. It didn't exist. You were just thrown in the deep end, and when you got out of the fryer, when you got out of the frying pan, you went into the fire. And it was a judgment of trial and error until you got it right. But it re-enhances the resilience within yourself and building that momentum forward. So the forces taught me a lot: self-survival, obviously, self-discipline, respect for others, and also for myself. And it taught me how to refocus on an objective that I didn't have clarity on at the time. And I get reminded of things like that daily, within my clients and other companies that I serve. Self-respect and self-discipline are two of the main traits that I look for when I'm helping people, and we help them reestablish that in their lives. So it isn't just this is how you do it, this is why you're doing it. And the military taught me that at a very core level. And even going back into some of the stuff that I've done, it still shows up in today's life, in my business, and also in where the clients I serve, and in my personal life. Self-discipline, self-respect, self-leadership. And always remember, lead from the front, not from the flock, but lead with compassion.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, no, definitely military is kind of interesting as far as leadership. I've seen some of the best leadership examples ever, and I've seen some terrible leadership examples during my time in the military. So, it definitely helps you grow up. I've had some friends who went in that, you didn't know where they were going to be going in life, but it didn't look real good. And now they're doing well, like impressively well. So it does change lives in a positive way, and definitely definitely that's key. So one of the things that is talked about is management, leadership, and now even influence as being even more important than leadership. What is your view on influence, and how do you see that versus leadership?
Great question, Andrew. Influence is basically having relationships, but not just any relationships. Having the right relationships matter. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, whether it be business or your personal life. Let me put it this way. If you were in an unhappy relationship, would you stay in that relationship, or would you eventually leave? The answer usually is, I would leave. You can't influence somebody without leverage. And the leverage most people have is another friendship or self-awareness and self-respect. So when it comes to influence, and there's this buzzword of influencer around the social media platforms, the only reason they have influence is because they're following. If their following was taken away from them tomorrow, literally wiped, if the platform was to go away, who are they at their core? Who are they? They're just another human being. What value do they bring to the table? Their following? Is it their knowledge? Is it their leadership style? Is it their compassion? Is it their awareness or business acumen? What is it? The only thing that's going to change is the way they're going to show up. If my platform, anybody's platform, was to disappear tomorrow, what are they going to leave? Where is the leverage coming from? The answer for most of these influencers is nowhere, because they don't hold the relationships, only the relationships that they perceive to have because they have a large following behind them. Now, I've had a following. I've had 100,000 on Instagram. I've had a few 100,000 on Facebook, but that's not where my clientele are. My clientele are on LinkedIn, and that's where I share my value, because I know the people that I'm serving on LinkedIn are going to receive that value, and where I can educate them in conjunction with what my values are, and then have the leverage and the influence. And it isn't influence of, here's some money, come and do what I want, or come and work with me, I'm a top line coach, or whatever the exchange is. the influence I have is true education, coming from a very humble point of view, but it's not forced upon people. And the same thing with leadership. Leadership is when you are influencing people through congruent education, and education from a standpoint of this is how you do it, and I've learned this from my own mistakes, from getting up, falling, getting up, falling, getting up, but never quitting, never having the awareness that today I'm just going to not do it. I'm not going to show up today, because the influence comes from knowing the possibilities and the possibility of failure, but choosing to get up. And that builds relationships. It builds the momentum. So when you pick up the phone to someone and say, like Andrew, hi, Andrew, I really love what you're doing and I really want to be a part of that. How can we make that work? That's a mutual influence. When I asked Andrew to come on Phoenix Voices, I asked him because of his experience, not because of I had something against him or I could leverage something. I asked him to share his story and also what he does in the world. That's true influence. If you look at the big players, the Grant Cardones, the Gary V's, the late Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, many others, they are social and celebrities, but they're social celebrities, and they do it by collaboration. Leadership is collaboration. Influencership is collaboration, but very distinct collaborations, and with intention, and the intention to help and support an audience or community to better their lives. It's not random. Then you have marketing and you have sales, etc. behind that. But true influencership comes from mutual collaboration and also a destination and a vision to support other people. Leadership is a bit the same, but in a different sphere of looking at these things. But always be an influencer positively. It doesn't matter about your following. I could be taken away today. Literally, I wouldn't care, because I can pick up the phone to someone and say, help, I've got this idea, but this is my challenge. That's true influencership and having confidence within yourself to pick up the phone.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, you mentioned collaboration,
Correct.
and and that's key. Actually, at my Power Breakfast, we had an expert panel, and it was focused on developing the right partnerships for success. And collaborations and partnering is key, especially in business. When you're small, you can't do everything. You have to have your ecosystem and your partners. But one thing they covered is, okay, well, everybody shouldn't be your partner, and you really should have some criteria around what you're looking for in a partner, to make sure that there's alignment as far as missions and other things. So, when you're looking to partner with people, or people are looking to partner with you, what is it that you do to evaluate whether they're a good fit?
I like that question. There's a few things that I do to evaluate if there's a good partnership. First one is I find out their vision, what they want out of life, also where they want to go, what level they want to go to. I also have multiple conversations with them about their values, what they stand for, and then are they looking to go for that next level, or are they looking to progress into the above levels? Because there's always another level, no matter where you're at in the world. Some of the greatest business owners in the world have multiple networks, and they have these networks because they've sat down and have real conversations about not just their vision, but their lives. What do they want, firstly? What do they really want? Most people will answer that with, I want a lot of money, I want freedom, and I want fame. But what's behind that? There's driving forces, and they usually show up when you have a truthful, organized conversation. And there's a framework that I use. It's a 12 course framework. It's 12 questions, and it's designed to elevate the person, but also extract through definite psychology about what they are as a person. It's not what they want, it's who do they want it with. It's not where they're going, it's why are they going there. I always ask them, why? Why do you think that? Or if this was to happen, what level are 1 to 10 is that meaningful for you? If they're coming from a 1, and they say, well, it's not really meaningful for me, I don't really want it. How do you make it a 10? How do you make every question meaningful at a very emotional core level? The more conversations you have with a person that you're wanting to help, serve, grow, whatever you want to call it, it's not a financial exchange. It's always a relationship exchange. It's always based on trust. It's based on vision. And it's based on mutual understanding that we're both human beings and we're going to make mistakes. None of us are perfect. And also, these conversations are based on transparency of where we're going next. And also, how do you want to get there? What's your true vision and what's going next for you? And how do you intend to pay that forward to somebody else? If I teach you this, which I'm happy to do so, where's that going next? How are you going to utilize it in your life and also your business? They come back with, well, I'm going to teach this skill to my child or to my team, to my wife. If it's negotiation and collaboration through negotiation, what's that going to look like? So ask deeper questions and you get deeper answers. Ask different questions to yourself, you get different answers. And even better than that, ask an elevated question. Not just how are you going to do it, but why are you doing this? What's going to show up for you at that deeper level? And then go into that aspect of it. Not, okay, that's great, let's move on. Why do you want that? And then if they don't answer you fully, go into it again. Why do you really want that? Just keep asking questions. Never stop asking something that you want to achieve. The net worth is about relationships. It's not about money. And it's about having the awareness that you can both benefit, or a group of you can all benefit. Don't ever stop at just one question. Always keep asking. Always inquire. A friend of ours always says, always be curious. Never stop being curious. And if you don't get the answer you want, ask a different question.
Excellent, excellent. So, you know, unfortunately, an hour goes really fast. So
I'm
we're
sad.
bumping up on the hour, but you know, always love having great conversations. Um, Baz, you know, before you leave, you know, I always ask my guests to really share 3 key things that people should take away, because we talked about a lot of concepts, but you know, for many people, 3 things is all that they can remember. So, you know, if you want people to, you know, if they don't remember anything else, what are the 3 things that they should remember that we talked about today? So I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. I'm going to play a quick um, video about my most recent book, Entrepreneur Playbook, and then we'll be back and you can share the 3 key things that people should take away.
Most businesses are not growing, could be more profitable, and have cash flow issues due to lack of capital. What if you knew the secret to generating revenue, maximizing profitability, and acquiring capital when you need it?
I'm Andrew Frazier, and I have developed a proven 5-step framework to take you from startup to scaling faster and easier.
I laid it all out in the Masterpreneur Playbook. It's available now in both English and Spanish on Amazon, Audible, and my website, sbprou.com. Get your copy today to start selling more and making more sooner.
Okay, back with Baz Porter's Talking Small Business. As we're getting ready to close out, Baz is going to share with us 3 things that we should take away from tonight's conversation that we can utilize starting tomorrow within our business.
Thank you, Andrew. I think the 3 things that I'd like to sum up is remember compassion. Compassion not just for yourself, but also for other people. Understand their world, not just assume something. The second one is never stop asking questions. Stay curious about other people just as much as yourself. And remember, thirdly, for leadership, is never stop leading from a very compassionate place. Never stop understanding there's always another level. Leadership isn't about dictatorship. It's about setting an example for us all and for our future. Passion and purpose and also legacy is built from a quite simple foundation. And that is an understanding that we're all equal. And we all come from somewhere. We all make mistakes. But never stop believing in compassion, in empathy, and also in yourself, and actualize it from your mistakes. Don't ever look down about yourself. And I hope you utilize these tools starting tomorrow. It's a pleasure being here today with Andrew, and I hope this serves you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. This has been excellent. Always love chatting with you as well. So, any last words before we close out?
I just want to thank you, Andrew, really, for providing this time and the value to your audience. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to have a lot more conversations with you in the future and maybe some future collaborations.
Okay, great. Same here. So hang on a minute while I close everything out, and we'll go from there. So once again, thanks everybody for participating. Definitely glad that you're getting something out of it and you find it valuable, because that's why we do it. And looking forward to seeing you next week. As you know, each week we have a great conversation. Next week, we've got Jason Criddle, and we're going to be talking about the business conversation that nobody's having. So that's going to be pretty interesting. So hopefully you can join us, because it's important that business is real, and you have to have real conversations and talk about real things, because when you're in business, that's your life in many ways. So definitely looking forward to that next week as well. But this has been great, and thanks again, Baz, for joining us tonight. And everybody else, have a great night. And just always remember that at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.